Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Thanks for joining us so early. We know that
Yes.
you're on the West Coast.
Yes.
So I am so glad, Jasmine, that you're joining us to talk about your upcoming anti-depression course.
Mhm.
And I was wondering if you'd first introduce yourself, who you work with, and some of the things that you do before we get talking about your training.
Yeah, for sure. So I am in Long Beach, California. My pronouns are she, her. I have an LCSW and a PMHC. I have my own private practice and I've been in it for 10 years this year. I can't believe how time goes by, but it goes by fast. And I work with predominantly adolescents, young adults, and adults. Spectrum of the adult age and with lots of different focuses. I was a little nervous about having one particular focus, but really a lot of the work that I've been working with lately is a lot of oppression trauma and complex PTSD as a result of it, and really seeing the need to help those who've experienced this, because we know what's happening in our world is really impacting just that core insecurity that is being replicated with oppressions that are continuing to happen. And I love helping empower my clients, really have them in the driver's seat of their treatments. Really passionate about supporting a variety of different groups in intentionally marginalized and oppressed groups: BIPOC, LGBTQ, those with disabilities, reproductive rights. I do have a passion for supporting those in the perinatal community, specifically with pregnancy trauma and loss, and also those who have not been able to be seen, represented in our society, and be able to have them figure out what their best self is going to be. So that's a little bit of me.
That's wonderful. And Jasmine, I was wondering if you wanted to talk about a little bit about the BIPOC facilitating.
Yes, we have this amazing space led by Lisa Hayes with the Institute for Creative Mindfulness, and she's the director of our BIPOC cohorts. And we just wrapped up, including you, Taina, who's part of our wonderful team. We've just wrapped up our 14th cohort? Yes, 14th cohort. And it's just an amazing space where it's geared specifically for BIPOC clinicians to be able to get their foundational EMDR training. And if you need to ask why that space is needed, then that's a question to you as to why are you asking why. And the reason is because there are certain things that BIPOC clinicians don't always feel comfortable being able to show up in certain spaces. And so, with being able to have these affinity spaces, it creates a way that they can really have that part of them be very visible and present and represented. And I see the difference when we're in our practicum, how they're able to go there. Because as we know with EMDR therapy, you can't practice with a role play, it's your stuff. And so being able to have a space where they can feel safer, it allows them to be able to really feel what EMDR can offer.
Thank you. So you are actually, I forgot to mention, now an approved EMDR trainer.
Yes, yes. Yay.
And so congratulations.
Thank you.
And also tell us a little bit about this training that you're going to that you created for this space.
Yeah, so I have had the privilege of helping support other training spaces as a facilitator and been able to witness just the amazement that I know EMDR can offer and the healing power that it can offer. And also, I've been able to both personally and with working with my clients and also supporting other therapists with their work, really see some of the modifications that are needed for the foundational training in order to make sure we're capturing that anti oppression piece. And so I was seeing this need consistently and having this conversation in my consultation groups, and have a specific consultation group, actually, too, geared for this specific focus. And I was like, okay, so instead of repeating it, let's bring together similar minded colleagues who have this passion and commitment, and let's decolonize the EMDR therapy and how it can be able to be applied to our clients who really need to have a way so that their needs are met instead of it be led by the therapy specifically.
And so, if I was recommending this to my consultees, what kind of therapist or where in the process would you recommend people be?
Yeah, so they definitely have to have their foundational EMDR training completed. They could, if they want, not have completed the 10 hours of consultation. However, if they want it to count towards certification, then it's ideal to wait until they complete those 10 hours. Then it can count for that component of CEUs. But it's really geared towards any EMDR therapist who has a desire to know how to modify it for their clients, and to be able to have their client in the driver's seat to work on dismantling the power dynamic where we oftentimes come from, where the therapist knows best, the therapy knows best. But the reality is the client is the expert to their system. The client knows best what they need. And so we need to be able to tailor it to them so it can work for them. Instead of saying, oh no, we know what's best for your system. It's let me learn and get to know your system so I can help support you the best way I can. And so anybody who wants that to be able to have that as their intention throughout the phases. And so this training will walk them through and talk about why it's important to have this at the forefront and how to apply it through the different phases.
Now, I do plan on attending this training, but I would like to know how I should be prepared. Are there readings that I should be doing beforehand? Are there things I should know? Do you expect people to be coming in with a certain level of knowledge?
It'd be nice if they were already doing their own personal exploration of where they fall with their own practice of anti oppression, intentional practice. And it's much more than I'm a nice person and I want people to be able to heal. It's you got to do your own work and do a constant self reflection and be open to learning and making mistakes and stumbling and falling. And I know for me, earlier on my clinical career, it was scary. I felt very like nervous because I didn't want to cause harm. I didn't want to hurt anybody. And so, unfortunately, sometimes what that means is people then back away from having those conversations and back away because they're not wanting to hurt. But then what that means is those in the communities who have not been seen and heard are again then being not seen and heard. So then we're actually just replicating that same cycle and trauma. And so it was a commitment that I was like, no, this has to be in the forefront. And I've been continually working on how I can be as affirming as possible with the power that I have. And so, just somebody who has that as commitment. In terms of some like readings that I have really connected to, Decolonizing Therapy, Jennifer Milan's book has been amazing to reflect and
Amazing.
really look at how our mental health practices are very much through the colonized lens. And so it reinforced the what I was seeing clinically and with how the modifications I was noticing that we needed to make. And it just really resonated, right? Also, Resma Medicins, My Grandmother's Hands. That's an amazing book to look at the impact of institutional racism and how it impacts our nervous system. And also, like both of those books talk about you got to do your own work. You got to look at it, and it's not always easy to spot it. So, having colleagues, having a circle of support who have similar intentions, and so that's really what prompted me to say, hey, let's make this bigger, this movement bigger than just my consultation groups. Let's create a space where we can have this conversation and hold space and reflect and be able to look at it and really start to see how we can, within our own power, to shift the work so we can better serve our clients.
It's interesting that you talk about having colleagues who you can have those
Mhm.
challenging conversations with because you're one of my people.
As well, you.
And so I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how you integrate signage, because I think for me that was a surprise when I started working with you. What is that signal?
Yeah, and so this comes from like lots of different conversations and trainings, and also being a part of several groups that have been not represented. And in order to be able to, I feel as a person with privilege, that it's my responsibility to convey my support as best as I can. And so being able to have affirming signage, affirming indicators, that is my way to communicate that without saying anything. Because sadly, if there's not that signage or affirming piece, it can be very scary and vulnerable to put your needs out there, or to not know how the person is going to receive you, depending upon whatever group you're a part of. And so, for, I don't know, I'm thinking back to my community mental health days, like I always had affirming pieces and really making it clear like where I stand. And it's one of the pieces that I am intentional about, so that somebody on the outside who is maybe nervous to share this part of them maybe has a little bit of indicator of, okay, you could be a person who maybe I can share this with. And if I can offer that by having some representation pieces, then that's why I do it.
I love that. And how has that played out in your consultation groups?
In terms of, so my flyers have the representation so that people of different backgrounds feel like I'm aware, I see, I want to hold space with you. And then also have the intentional conversation of, let me know if there are supports that you need. And if not, we'll figure it out. If I don't have it set up, it's a together conversation, not a hassle, not a bother, not a you situation. It's a we situation of, how can we make this accessible? And it's hard to tell, but I'm a person who maneuvers this world in a chair. And there's a lot of times where it's not accessible to me. And to be able to have people who I know, and I look for signage, I look for indicators like, okay, I'm being held here, I'm being seen here. It's so crucial. And it's important in my group that I convey that with the flyer, and then continue that conversation. And also the trickle down, like how you model, and you hope that the modeling continues and spreads so that more people can feel supported.
I love that. And what else should we know about your training? Any tips or tricks you would like to give the audience?
Yeah, so my training is a conversation. It's an invitation to have a conversation. And there are definitely like specific tips and suggestions, but this is based off of what I have learned through my journey. And so there's a lot of conversation parts. So be prepared to conversate with each other and connect, right? One of the foundations of anti oppression work is making community, right? Because systems intentionally try to divide, and so that people feel disempowered and alone in their struggle. So, part of the foundation is building that community, having that conversation. And so, that's what we do in this space. So, I welcome the conversation. There's going to be intentional, like small group, large group conversation. There is going to be some practicum of some of the phases, phases 1 and 2. We're not going to be doing the reprocessing phase. And I do that intentionally because I know that some of these targets are so layered that it's hard to really capture it in an hour practicum. And I'm very mindful of that, of not wanting to open something that might not always be able to be continued. And so we will talk about those modifications for those phases, but we also have consultation groups if you want to keep the conversation going. And so there will be some practicum, and also there will be an expressive arts component. And so I want you to bring whatever expressive arts material that really speak to you, right? Some people like to collage, some people like to do art, paint, color. If you have some poetry writing way, music, movement, there's going to be time throughout the training to be able to connect with it, because again, talking is one way of processing things. It's not the only way. And actually, if we have talking as the only way, we're really closing the gap on a lot of other ways to connect for people and to process things and to work through things. And so I wanted to also have this intentional way of not just talking about it, but having a way to process and to really see what's coming up for you. And you always have choice. So it's always invitation. And there will be time to share and to connect around it. And also broaden our thoughts of how we can pass that to our clients and expand their ways of working through things. Because I think sometimes we get so focused on using your words, right? That we lose sight that is missing a big foundational, which is the body work, the felt sense, those like roots. And so, again, we're going to have lots of different things to be able to have play around with it. Some people are really comfortable with it, some not so much. And that's part of the space, is to be curious and to reflect and see where you stand with some of these pieces.
I love that, and I cannot wait for this training.
Yay.
I'm so excited for I'm so excited for this training. I get to witness just all of your knowledge because we facilitate so much together and we've
Mhm.
worked together so often that I have been waiting for this for months. So I'm looking forward to it. Where can people find more information about your training and about your practice?
Yeah, so Touchstone, they can go onto Touchstone's website and they have the links to the training. It's October 27th, 28th, which is a Sunday and Monday. And to find me, I have my website, jasmineadamslcsw.net, or you could also send me an email if you want to ask questions about the training or have any curiosities or specific needs at jasmineadamslcsw@gmail.com. And I'm excited that it's coming because I've been wanting to put this out there because I've been noticing the ways to change it. And now we have a space to talk about it.
Thank you so much for sitting with me this morning.
Of course.
I'm looking forward to everything that's coming.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks.